Welcome to Tales from the African Horizon.
Once upon a time, in the heart of Africa, there lived a wealthy and respected businessman named Ebuka. Despite his riches and influence, he felt an emptiness in his life. He had no wife to share his wealth with. Ebuka was determined to marry a virtuous woman, someone untouched, pure, and intelligent. For years, he searched. He attended festivals, visited distant cities, and consulted with elders, but none of the women met his high standards. One day, while visiting a neighboring town, he met Kelechi, a young, beautiful, and intelligent woman. Kelechi was everything he had prayed for. She was a teacher, known for her kindness and wisdom. Ebuka was smitten and wasted no time in proposing. Ebuka proposed marriage to Kelechi. Kelechi, though hesitant at first, agreed after seeing his sincerity and kind heart. The wedding was the talk of the region. Bright colors, traditional drummers, and joyous Igbo cultural dancers filled the air. Kelechi, dressed in rich Igbo traditional outfit, adorned with beads and gold, stood proudly beside her husband. Everyone praised the union of love and tradition. Their marriage was blissful, and soon they were blessed with children. First came a daughter, then another, and finally a fourth daughter. Ebuka loved his family, doting on his girls and sharing his wealth generously. For 7 years, their home was filled with laughter and happiness. As time passed, whispers began to reach Ebuka's ears. According to his family tradition, a man's legacy could only continue through a male heir. Though Kelechi had given him 4 beautiful daughters, he began to feel restless. One night, as they sat in their luxurious living room, he expressed his desire for another child, a son. Kelechi, a smile fading, gently explained, "My dear, I have had all my children through cesarean operations. My doctor says I should not try again." But Ebuka was adamant. "Kelechi, you know our customs. A man without a son has no future. Think about it." Kelechi pleaded, but he refused to listen. Over the following months, he grew distant, spending less time at home. One day, rumors reached Kelechi that her husband was seeing another woman. At first, she dismissed them. "He wouldn't do that to me," she thought. But soon, she found undeniable proof. A note in his pocket from a young woman named Bimpe. When confronted, Ebuka confessed. "Bimpe is carrying my child," he said coldly. "If you cannot give me a son, I must find someone who can." Ebuka also said Bimpe had to move into the mansion. After a couple of days, heartbroken Kelechi was forced to leave the mansion with her 4 daughters by wicked relatives and Ebuka's kinsmen. She had no job, no savings, and no idea of how to survive as she resigned her teaching job to take care of her children. With nowhere else to go, Kelechi rented a small 1-room apartment in a poor neighborhood. To feed her children, she began hawking food on the streets. Her eldest daughter, Mercy, just 7 years old, helped her mother with cooking and selling. Despite their struggles, Kelechi never let her daughters feel unloved. "You are my pride," she would tell them daily. "Never let anyone make you less because you're girls." Years passed, and Kelechi's hard work began to pay off. Mercy excelled in school and won a full scholarship to study abroad. The second daughter, Chioma, entered the lottery and won a US visa lottery. With their newfound opportunities, the girls promised to uplift their family. Mercy and Chioma found work abroad and sent money to help their other siblings. Soon, the third and fourth daughters joined their sisters overseas. Together, they built a better life for themselves and their mother. One sunny afternoon, Kelechi, now older and still hardworking, sat outside her small home. A luxurious car suddenly pulled up, and out stepped four elegant young women. They were her daughters, now successful and confident. "Surprise! Mama!" they shouted, revealing the keys to a new house and a sleek car. Kelechi burst into tears, overwhelmed with gratitude. "You have made me the happiest mother ever," she said, embracing them. Meanwhile, Ebuka's life had taken a turn for the worse. His second wife, Bimpe, had squandered all his wealth and disappeared. The son she claimed to be his turned out to belong to another man. Alone and penniless, he regretted his actions. One day, he heard about his daughter's successes and returned from overseas and decided to seek their forgiveness. Ebuka arrived unannounced at Kelechi's new home. As Ebuka knelt down before his wife and four daughters, his once proud shoulders slumped with the weight of regret. Tears streamed down his face as he begged for their forgiveness, his voice trembling with remorse. His wife, Kelechi, studied him in silence. Years of pain reflected in her eyes. His daughters, now grown, exchanged uncertain glances, their hearts torn between resentment and the longing for a father's love. Kelechi finally spoke, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Ebuka, forgiveness is not given with the words alone. It must be proven through actions." Ebuka nodded fervently. "I will spend the rest of my life making things right," he vowed. After a long silence, his eldest daughter stepped forward. "We won't forget the past, but maybe we can try to heal." One by one, they embraced him, their hearts still fragile but open to the possibility of a reconciliation. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the family as they took their first steps towards healing. For the first time in years, Ebuka felt whole, not because of wealth or influence, but because he had regained the love of his family and those that mattered the most to him. And as the wise word says, what the wind rejects, the heart embraces and makes flourish. He who abandons the stream may one day thirst for its waters. Thank you for watching. If you have learned something from this story, kindly like, subscribe, and share with others. Once upon a time, in the heart of a prosperous African kingdom, there lived a great king named Adewale. His kingdom was blessed with fertile lands, bustling markets, and joyous celebrations that echoed through the hills. King Adewale had many wives and children, but amongst them, only one was a son, Prince Olumide, the apple of his eyes and the heir to the throne. Olumide was a bright and curious young man, always asking questions and seeking to understand the world. While his sisters enjoyed the royal life, Olumide often spent his days in the marketplace, listening to the healers and herbalists. He admired their ability to ease suffering and dreamed of one day becoming a great healer himself. One day, as the prince came of age, he approached his father with a request. "Father," he said, bowing low, "I wish to study medicine. I want to travel abroad to learn the ways of healing so that I may bring knowledge back to our people." King Adewale's face darkened. He loved his son deeply, but his love was shadowed by fear. Olumide was his only son, the one destined to rule after him. The thought of letting him travel far from home filled the king's heart with dread. "No, my son," the king said sternly. "I cannot allow it. You are the future of this kingdom, and I will not risk losing you to the dangers of the world." Olumide was disheartened, but he was not ready to give up on his dream. He turned to the council of chiefs and wise elders who had long advised the king. And in their midst, he said, "Honorable chiefs," Olumide pleaded, "help me convince my father. I wish to learn so I can serve our people better." The chiefs, seeing the determination in the young prince's eyes, decided to intervene. They gathered before the king and spoke in unity. "Your Majesty," one chief began, "the boy's dream is noble. Knowledge is a gift, and if he learns the ways of healing, it will not only save lives but strengthen your legacy." For days, the council tried to persuade the king. And finally, after much deliberation, King Adewale agreed. Though his heart was heavy, "You may go," the king said to Olumide, "but know that every day you are away, my heart will be troubled." With his father's blessing, Olumide prepared for his journey. The day of his departure was bittersweet. The entire kingdom gathered to bid him farewell. All his sisters hugged him tight, one after the other, and the king held his son tightly. "Remember who you are, my son. Remain honorable, disciplined, and make the kingdom proud," the king whispered. "Return to me safely." Olumide embarked on this journey. He traveled by air for almost 24 hours to a land with no family and friends. His journey abroad was filled with challenges. He worked tirelessly, studying late into the night and learning from the best professors around the world. He faced moments of doubts and loneliness, but held on to his dreams. Over the years, he became a skilled doctor, mastering the art of healing. Back in the kingdom, King Adewale struggled with the absence of his son. Letters from Olumide brought some comfort, but the king's fear never truly left him. He often sat alone in the throne room. Years passed, and the time came for Olumide to return home. He boarded a plane, his heart brimming with joy and excitement to see his family and people once more. But as he approached the kingdom, he was greeted with grave news. The once lively kingdom and palace was now filled with silence and sorrow. King Adewale had fallen gravely ill, and no healer in the land could cure him. The villagers were in despair, and the royal household was in chaos. Famine was beginning to loom over the land, as it's a bad omen for the king to be sick. Olumide rushed to his father's side. The sight of the king, weak and frail, brought tears to his eyes. "Father," he said, holding the king's hand, "I am here now. Let me help you." Using the knowledge he had gained over the years, Olumide examined his father and quickly identified the illness, a condition that could be treated with the right care. He prepared herbal remedies combined with the advanced techniques he had learned abroad. Day and night, he worked tirelessly, never leaving his father's side. The villagers gathered outside the palace, waiting anxiously for good news. They sang songs of hope and prayed for the king's recovery. After several days, the king began to regain his strength. His color returned and his voice grew stronger. When he finally rose from his bed, the news spread like wildfire. The entire kingdom erupted in celebration. Drums echoed through the hills, and villagers danced in the streets singing, "Our king has been healed. The gods have smiled back on us." King Adewale called for a grand feast to honor his son. As the people gathered, the king stood before them, his voice filled with emotion. "My son," he said, "you have saved my life and shown me the error of my ways. I let fear cloud my judgment, but you have taught me that courage and growth go hand in hand. From this day forward, let it be known that we must never let fear hinder our paths, for it is a destroyer of destiny. We must all face our fears and take that bold step." The villagers cheered, and Olumide smiled humbly. The celebration lasted for days, with music, dancing, and feasting under the stars. From that day, Olumide became known not just as a prince, but as the healer of the throne. His story was told for generations, a reminder that courage and knowledge have the power to change lives and overcome even the deepest fears. And so, the kingdom thrived, led by a wise king and his fearless son, who showed that true strength comes from embracing the unknown. David and Anna sat in the hospital waiting room, their fingers intertwined, their bodies stiff with anticipation. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead, casting a sterile glow over the room. They had spent countless hours in the waiting rooms like this one, hoping, praying, and waiting for the news that never came. Each appointment had ended the same way: a sympathetic doctor, a shake of the head, and another crushing disappointment. 10 years had passed since they first dreamed of having a child. 10 years of love and longing, of tests and treatments, of whispered prayers and silent tears. They had tried everything: fertility treatments, medications, alternative therapies, and even fasting. But their arms remained empty. Each passing year only added to their pain. Friends and family who had once offered comfort now only reminded them of what they lacked. The invitations to baby showers became unbearable. The pitiful glances at family gatherings stung more than words ever could. Yet, through it all, David and Anna clung to each other. Their love, tested by time and trials, only grew stronger. They refused to let their pains turn into bitterness. Instead, they channeled their love into every child they had encountered: nieces, nephews, children from their church, and the kids in the neighborhood. But it wasn't enough. They longed to call a child their own. One evening, as they sat together in their small living room, Anna whispered, "David, maybe we are meant to be parents in a different way." David looked at her, his heart heavy yet hopeful. "You mean adoption?" She nodded. "I want to be a mother. And I know you want to be a father. Maybe love, not biology, is what truly makes a family." A deep silence settled between them, followed by a sense of peace. They knew in that moment that this was their path. The adoption process was long and rigorous. Interviews, home visits, and endless paperwork. But through it all, their excitement grew. Months passed before they received the news. A baby girl had been matched with them. 2-month-old Gina was tiny, with dark curls and big, curious eyes. The first time Anna held her, she felt an overwhelming wave of love. It didn't matter that Gina hadn't grown in her womb. She had grown in her heart. David stood beside her, his own eyes misty as he gently touched Gina's tiny fingers. "She's ours," he whispered. And just like that, their lives changed forever. The years that followed were filled with joy. Gina was the light of their home. They cared little for the judgments of the society or the whispers of those who thought differently. She was their daughter, their miracle. Every giggle, every milestone, every moment was cherished. But life had one more surprise in store. On Gina's third birthday, as the house filled with laughter and the smell of birthday cake, Anna suddenly felt lightheaded. A sharp pain coursed through her body, and before she could call out, the world around her went black. David's heart pounded as he carried her into the emergency room. The waiting room, once a place of disappointment, became once again a place of fear. Hours later, a doctor finally emerged. "David, your wife is going to be okay." David exhaled sharply, relief washing over him, but the doctor wasn't finished. And there's something else you should know. She's pregnant. David blinked, certain he had misheard. Pregnant? The doctor answered, yes, about 8 weeks long. Tears filled his eyes. After 13 years of waiting, they had finally accepted their fate. A child had come. When Anna woke up, David took her hand, his voice thick with emotion. You are pregnant. She stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief, before they filled with tears. Oh, David. Months later, they welcomed their son into the world. Gina, now a proud big sister, giggled as she touched her baby brother's tiny fingers. David and Anna held their children, their hearts overflowing. The waiting, the pain, the unanswered and now answered prayers, all of it had led to this great moment. Their family was finally complete. As the wise word says, however long the night, the dawn will still break. A child is a child, whether born from the womb or the earth. God's delays are not his denials. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, kindly like, subscribe, and share with others. Zainab's hands trembled as she tightened the ribbons on her ballet shoes. The grand stage of Adema's Academy of Dance stretched before her, its polished wood gleaming under the golden light. A hush had fallen over the audience, thousands of eyes watching, waiting. Her heart pounded. This is it, she whispered to herself. From the shadows behind the curtain, Lila smirked. Good luck, village girl. Try not to embarrass yourself. Zainab inhaled sharply. She had spent years fighting for this moment. The endless nights scrubbing floors, the bruises, the broken shoes, the whispered insults, the isolation, it all led to this. She stepped forward, and when the music began, she let go. But before we get to this moment, let's go back to where it all began. 17-year-old Zainab Ajayi had always known she was different. She was beautiful, graceful, and intelligent. She was the pride of her parents, excelling in school with grades that could take her anywhere. Lagos was a city of movement. Cars honking, in kiosks, symphony, street vendors calling out in rapid languages, the thick aroma of roasted plantains and fried akara wafting through the humid air. It was alive. Yet, for Zainab, it sometimes felt suffocating. The sun blazed overhead, the heat radiating off the concrete, clinging to her skin like an unwelcome embrace. At night, the distant hum of generators filled the air, a reminder of the city's relentless energy. But amidst the constant motion, Zainab longed for a different kind of movement. In her mind, dance was an escape, a world far removed from the sweat and toil of Lagos streets. While other children dreamed of becoming doctors, lawyers, and engineers, Zainab dreamed of movement. She dreamed of bodies acting in perfect synchronization, of sweat-soaked rehearsals, of music flowing through her veins like lifeblood. But in her family, dreams were for fools. Her father, a respected engineer, her mother, a nurse, had clawed their way out of poverty with sheer discipline and sacrifice. To them, success was a degree, a steady job, and a respectable career, not dance. "Zainab, you're smart," her father said one evening as they sat at the dining table. "Use that intelligence to do something meaningful. You will study medicine." Zainab swallowed. "But Baba, No arguments." His voice was final. Her mother softened her tone. "Dancing is nice, my dear, but it will not feed you. It will not build a future." Then came the final blow. "If you insist on wasting your life, you will do it on your own," her father declared. "We will not pay for this nonsense." But she had a dream. That night, she laid in her bed staring at the ceiling, with the sound of generators humming in the distance. Lagos, her home, suddenly felt too small. As tears dried on her cheeks, she made a decision. She would prove them wrong. With no financial support, Zainab took on 3 jobs. In the mornings, she waitressed at Mama Fadeke's restaurant. While balancing trays of jollof rice, egusi soup and suya, she worked tirelessly. In the afternoons, she taught ballet to children at the community center in Bagada, her only joy in a grueling day. While at night, she scrubbed floors at the Elite Dance Studio, her hands raw from chemicals. But when the studio was empty, she danced. She slipped off her cleaning gloves, pulled on her tattered ballet shoes, and practiced until her muscles burned and sweat drenched her back. She had no private tutors, no fancy costumes, or international training. For 2 years, she pushed her body to its limits. Then one morning, her email pinged, and the subject of the email read, "Adema's academy admission." Her breath caught in her throat. Too nervous to read the mail, she pulled herself together as she read the words. "Congratulations. You have been accepted into the Adema's Academy of Dance in South Africa." She sank to her knees, shaking. She had done it. But the real battle was just beginning. Now the D-Day was around the corner. Zainab packed her bags, ready to leave for South Africa. While at the airport, just about to board a plane, she became nervous. Is she doing the right thing? Will her expectations be cut short? A lot of questions just ran through her mind. But with all of that, she said to herself that she had come a long way to give up now. Stepping into the Hadamers Academy in South Africa felt like stepping into another universe. The golden chandeliers, the glass-walled studios, the marble staircases. It was elegance and precision in every detail. The students moved like gods, their bodies impossibly flexible, their feet barely touching the ground. And Zainab? She was a nobody from Nigeria who had clawed her way in. From day one, she was an outsider. You got in? How? Leela, a tall, elegant ballerina from London, sneered. Luck, maybe. Another girl giggled. The academy was merciless. Your lines are sloppy. You lack refinement. You will never make it here. The bullying got worse. Someone even stole her ballet shoes before class. Another day, she found coffee spilled all over her practice clothes. Her locker was vandalized with the words, "Go back home." She lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling. Maybe I don't belong here. Those were the questions that flew through her mind. Then a message from her younger sister popped up. Mama says she misses you. Papa doesn't say it, but I know he's proud of you. Keep going. She wiped her tears. Quitting was not an option. She was relentless. Instead of competing, she played to her strengths. She fused Afrobeats with ballet. Her movements a fiery blend of grace and rhythm. She trained harder than ever. Bruises, aches, exhaustion, none of it mattered. Every morning before the sun rose, she was in the studio, stretching her body beyond its limits. Every night, after other students had gone home, she stayed behind, practicing her footwork, refining every motion until it was flawless. The rhythm of the drums from her childhood echoed in her soul, blending seamlessly with the precision of ballet. She studied her rivals, learning their weaknesses, mimicking their strengths. She watched Leela, not with resentment, but with curiosity. How she carried herself, how her muscles seemed to flow effortlessly with every turn. And Leela watched her too, though she never admitted it. One evening, as Zainab finished an intricate floor combination, she caught Leela lingering in the doorway, arms crossed. Their eyes met, and for the first time, there was no sneer on Leela's lips, just something unreadable. Then, she turned and walked away. It was the first sign that Zainab was beginning to be seen not as an outsider, but as a true contender. She refined her own signature style, a seamless integration of African rhythms with the classical ballet techniques. She transformed every criticism into fuel, every failure into a lesson. She was no longer surviving in Adema's academy. She was thriving. The biggest competition of the year, which is the Soloist Championship. Lila laughed. You? Competing again? That's cute. Zainab didn't care. She crafted a routine that told her story. The night of the competition, she stepped onto the stage. The music began. She danced. Amozu screamed. Her heart pounded. She stumbled, just slightly, but caught herself, turning the mistake into fluid of movement. The audience gasped, leaning forward and completely captivated. She could feel the energy of the room shifting. At first hesitant, then fully enthralled. The music synced with her heartbeat, her limbs slicing through the air with both precision and raw emotion. She let the rhythm take over every step, narrating the struggles she had endured, the dreams she had fought for. Then silence filled the auditorium. Then, the judges stood. She had won. And now, the call home. Hello, Mama. Hello, Zainab. How are you? How is your competition going? And Zainab screamed, Mama, I won! The mother's voice thick with emotion. Oh, Zainab, we always knew you would, my child. Well done. Her father murmured, voice cracking. The weight of his words landed softly, but the meaning behind them was profound. For the first time, he acknowledged her dream, not as a foolish whim, but as an achievement worthy of respect. Zainab closed her eyes, tears spilling. She imagined her father at the dining table, the same one where he had once dismissed her passion, now sitting in quiet acceptance. She had not just won a title, she had won her place in the world. As an African from Nigeria, Zainab was announced as the winner of that competition, winning a major championship. And this was just the beginning. She turned to her suitcase, a fresh letter in her hands, an invitation to audition for an international ballet tour. The world stage awaited her, and this time, she knew she belonged. Just as the wise saying goes, the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. Even in moments of doubt and struggle, strength and brilliance emerge. Sweat, pain, and exhaustion are just the whispers of greatness calling your name. Hard work is never wasted. It shapes you. Growth happens in the shadows, long before the spotlight finds you. True progress is made in the unseen hours of dedication. The road to success is paved with trials, but those who keep walking will reach their destiny. Every setback is a step forward if you refuse to give up. Strength is not just about enduring the pain, but rising despite it. Resilience is built in moments of adversity. When the world tells you to go back, tell them you're just getting started. Never let rejection define your worth. Fire in the eyes, sweat on your skin, dreams in the heart. Unstoppable. Passion, perseverance makes all the difference. If you have learned anything from this story, kindly like, subscribe, and share with others.